Ben Burgis. He's author of Give Them an Argument, Logic for the Left. He has a great Patreon page. Become a patron of it. He teaches logic at the University of Georgia System, Perimeter College, where he teaches logic and philosophy. Logic. I always want to introduce you like Jesse Lee Peterson. Ben,
well, if you did an extended impression when you did it, that'd be all right.
He teaches logic. He's Jewish, but he likes politicians that don't like the Jewish people. And nice. He seems to be doing pretty well, but he's a socialist. Is everything all set? Okay, Ben, are you ready? And now you're on screen, so you have to really fake your enthusiasm for your song now.
I love the song.
All right, let's do it.
I want to go to mockery really bad.
I wasn't totally convinced.
Okay. You got to restrain me.
I love the song.
Logical analysis. You're going to show us how to argue that. Go.
This is based on data from a bunch of different countries. There's abundant evidence that at this point that's bullshit. Breaking down these right-wing arguments and looking at how they're supposed to fit together.
Okay, break it down. Break it down. Break it down.
Ben, what have you this week? What neoliberal nonsense or conservative demonism are we debunking this week?
Yes, so this is one of the most sort of faux sophisticated arguments against Medicare for all. If you kind of think about the whole range of anti-Medicare for all arguments, from the extremely obviously stupid ones, like Rand Paul saying that it would mean doctors were slaves.
I always forgot that one.
Yeah. Well, you know, Alexander Cuthbert, a couple of years before he died, he wrote a column about Rand Paul where he said, you know, he's got this 3-word assessment that always stuck in my mind, which is he seems dumb.
He really does, although I hope Rand Paul has an inner root story that he tells himself. 0,
then like maybe up at like 7 or 8 is this one, which is the argument that you'll oftentimes find people hear it couched in the idea that, well, other countries can have successful healthcare systems without the kind of market incentives we have here, but that's because of all this wonderful medical innovation we have in the United States.
All right, guys, let's play it. This is from Fox News. Who is this, Ben?
The host is Kennedy.
And then she's just talking to some sad old guy about medical innovation. All right, that's fine. We don't have to get to that. Okay. All right, here is 1990s.
Delving into in any kind of depth.
All right, let's check this out.
Isn't it?
Absolutely. New cancer immunotherapies. CAR T, that you take your immune cells out, engineer them, put them back in, costs over $300,000 per one treatment. That's a cure, potentially. Wow. Robotics. Nanotechnology, all of these things, waves of the future, are not going to be covered by a one-size-fits-all single-payer solution, which is basically based on insurance that was devised in the 1930s when there were a lot less solutions out there for this.
And
well, first of all, Ben, he's an extremely charismatic speaker.
Yeah, no, electrifying. I think that's the word that you want to use to describe his rhetorical style. So this is where they're, watching this clip, which is at this point a kind of unpleasant professional duty that you have to like watch all this right-wing media to see what they're saying, was like what got me thinking about this. But then I believe we also have a link to an article in Forbes that gives, rather than just kind of like, rattling off all the wish list of stuff that you hope is developed in the near future and saying in some hand-wavy way that we won't get all those good things in Medicare for all, the article in Forbes at least has the virtue of like explaining the reasoning a little bit.
Do we have the Forbes article, guys? All right, let's get the Forbes article up. 4 reasons why Elizabeth... Oh, this is already going to piss me off. 4 reasons why Elizabeth Warren's Medicare for all single-payer plan is a singularly bad idea. It's not her singularly bad idea. But okay, go ahead.
No, maybe this is what convinced her to dump it.
Right. All right, so do you want to read... okay, scroll down.
Yeah, so the
do you have these in front of you?
Yeah,
Okay,
so the
go
key
ahead.
paragraph is the one that starts off with the fourth reason. So if you scroll down
The
through
fourth
the rest of this,
reason Elizabeth Warren's Medicare, single-payer Medicare for all plan is a bad idea is that it is the adverse effects will have on medical innovation. Over 2 years ago, I showed the U.S. to be by far the world's leader in medical innovation. It would be foolish in the extreme for our nation to move in a direction where we simply mirror the pace of medical innovation as seen in the rest of Europe, Canada, and Japan. For, as George Mason University economist Tyler Cowen put it over a decade ago, great source, the American healthcare system, high expenditures and all, is driving innovation for the rest of the world.
yeah. So as a matter of fact, if you look at the data, you don't even have to look at the data from a bunch of different countries in this case. You can just focus on the United States and see that this is, in fact, bullshit. In fact, if you follow his link, what he gives you is basically a bunch of stats about how many things are patented in the U.S. And on like a simple factual level, what's wrong with this is one, that even as he mentions in the link that he gives to his old article from 2 years ago, maybe he forgot about this before he wrote this one, but in the article from 2 years ago, he does mention as one of the reasons why so many medical innovations happen in the U.S. that the National Institute of Health in the United States spends a really absurd amount of money on this, right? More than its equivalents in other countries, which would suggest maybe it has nothing to do with the private health insurance system. Maybe it's about the NIH spending a lot of taxpayer money on this.
Wait, the National Institute of Health isn't a pharmaceutical company in New Jersey? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, if you read a book that I just finished, which I can't really recommend strongly enough, I think it's very, very good, called The People's Republic of Walmart, which is about how if you look at the internal corporate practices of big corporations, that actually undermines a lot of arguments against economic planning. And one of the things that the authors, Phillips and Rosworski, point out in that book is that if you look at new drugs coming down the pipeline, if you're focused on NMEs, right, new molecular entities, in other words, entirely new drugs, about 75% of those are developed at government labs. So mostly when you see those stats about, oh my God, look at all these things that the pharmaceutical companies in the United States are patenting, mostly what they're patenting are called Me Too drugs. So just they tweak a recipe a little bit so you can patent the new thing, and you've got a new thing that you have intellectual property in. In fact, if you're looking at some of the most, instead of just sort of doing like that Fox Business guest was doing and just kind of lying in the grass, rattling off everything that you hope will happen soon, robotics, nanotechnology, except I know what I just did was much more energetic than what he did.
I was going to say, Ben, you need to work on your impression skills. That was much more like, they're going to have an opportunity to clean the blood and robots will come through and everybody's going to make money, Kennedy. Thank you.
Yeah. So instead of just like speculating about all of your hopes for future medical technology, if you look at one of the actually most urgently pressing needs, this is another point that Phillips and Rosworski make in the People's Republic of Walmart, one of the really pressing needs for medical innovation is for new antibiotics because, old, you'll have the microbes that will evolve to get past the antibiotics that have already been developed. And the problem there is that even though this could actually be a giant public health crisis, we're talking about going back to amputations being a routine cure, that kind of thing. If we don't really get on this, and they're not making this up, right? They cite various medical organizations sounding the alarm about this, but the problem is that antibiotics actually aren't very profitable to develop because patients don't have to use them very, very long, right? Like if they work, then you use them for like 2 weeks and you're done. Right. So it's not a very profitable site for medical research as opposed to like long-term treatments, which you can make much more money off on the long term. So honestly, if you're really concerned about medical innovation, not only does this not give us a reason to preserve America's uniquely barbaric market-based healthcare system, but it actually would give you a reason to nationalize the pharmaceutical industry so we can direct research towards things that we urgently need and not things that happen to be profitable, which do not always intersect with each other.
We definitely need to nationalize the pharmaceutical industry. At the bare minimum, have public production and a public option. I mean,
absolutely.
Yes.
Last point about this. The thing that really bugs me about this argument is that even if everything I just said wasn't true, even if that sort of simplistic Econ 101 kind of argument actually applied in the real world, that, oh, well, see, since private insurance companies will pay out more, therefore, you'll have bigger financial incentives for innovation, therefore there's more innovation, if we keep our market-based health insurance system. As it turns out, for reasons we've just discussed, it's a lot more complicated than that. But even if it wasn't, there's something really disturbing about telling people, hey, we've got to keep this system that means a lot of people won't get the health care they need right now. The stuff we've already figured out how to do. We don't have to, we don't have to figure out how to build the nanotech, blood cleaning robots or whatever, right? But we have the technology, we have the doctors, we have the hospitals, we have everything set up, but we're going to keep a system whereby some people won't be saved just because they can't afford it, right? That lots of people don't go to the doctor all the time, even like relatively lower middle class people, because they have a growth or something that could be something, it could be nothing, and money is tight, so they roll the dice. And you're saying, oh, we're going to keep that system, right? We're going to keep having this system that doesn't save all these people's lives that we could easily save, but don't worry, in exchange, that'll help us have faster medical innovation.
Don't worry about it. There'll be a fucking Emirati prince that'll have a flying robot make his dick get harder. You win some, you lose some. They should have me on Fox. I could sell that much better.
Yeah, if you look at
you have a growth you can't treat, school teacher. But on the other hand, it's a fucking Saudi prince at the Mayo Clinic getting 4 inches, which mankind has been trying to do for a fucking millennia. Thank you, Kennedy. It is a total honor. I remember watching you promote Green Day. That had a major effect on me. They were innovative.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea, especially if you think about one of the most striking statistics about the difference between the U.S. and other comparable Anglophone countries like Canada and the UK, or pretty much anywhere in Western Europe, et cetera, is that the rate of infant mortality is so much bigger here. And I just keep imagining telling somebody whose child has just died because of substandard health care, sorry, we could have saved them, but I think nanotech research is going to go a little bit faster if we don't do that.
Mark Zuckerberg's kid has a fucking laser beam coming out of his head. So think about it. You win some, you lose some. It's like a Lauryn Hill song. See, I'm not racist. I love Lauryn Hill. The Fugees. All right. Ben Burgis, as always, you're amazing. I like my Fox News contributor character. It feels a lot more relaxing than doing this show. A lot less research time. You got to really admire the lack of research time that you would have in right-wing politics. That is definitely something that I mean, what's funny about the right wing is they've actually mastered a lot of things that we're looking for. They have a really robust, I mean, it's in private sector hands, so that's not what we want, but they definitely have job security, public works programs for a lot of low talent people who are usually in positions that they don't belong in, frankly. The most conservative analysis I can have in the world is looking at conservative media systems. I'm just like, where's the quality control and competitive process here? Because how is some guy who looks like he's a walking Xanax talking about medical innovation with Kennedy? This is boring.
Yeah, and that guy is never, ever, ever going to be unemployed no matter what.
Ever, ever, ever. And he will get the nanotech. because he's been dutifully fighting to deny you your health care for decades. Ben Burgis, I appreciate your time as always. Give Them an Argument, Logic for the Left. Fantastic book. Buy it for all your friends for the holidays.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Ben. All right, folks. That was great. I'm liking this. We're doing video.
Yeah, Ben was looking good.
Yeah, this is really great. This is adding a whole other upgrade. We might have time for a few calls. I'll call into the system in a minute. You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.